My name is Jessa Howes, and like many of you, I attended the first Sioux Falls Women's March in 2017. At that gathering, and at each one since, I've been inspired to join together with all of you to participate in this movement, doing what women do best, to support other women, to raise them up. And I contribute in my own way to the things that I think are important in my community. I volunteer for the Levitt, bringing free, professional, diverse music to our community. I've taken the time to volunteer at Caminando Juntos, a local group that works to help people with immigration law. It helps to reunify unaccompanied minors who have been separated from their families, and it works to create cultural connections. Sioux Falls Women's March has also helped me to deepen my connection to and to find role models in other women who have the same desire to rise up together. It is my great pleasure today to introduce one of those women who has been an inspiration to me. Angelica Mercado-Ford will be our next speaker. She's an artist and a writer, born in Mexico, raised in Nebraska, currently living in Sioux Falls. She has used her talents to serve others and to engage with her community. This year, she had a show at the Washington's Pavilion's Center for Visual Arts. She published a book, Todo Revoluciona, as well as organizing a book reading that raised funds for government hygiene products to be donated to the local in our community. This fall, Angelica married, and she and her wife Olivia demonstrated to everyone that love is love. Finally, Angelica looks towards the future by ensuring that the next generations will have the power required to rise up and be active participants in their own communities. To this end, she will begin her master's degree in education this fall. Please join me in welcoming my friend and source of inspiration, Angelica Mercado-Ford.
My podcast is somewhere between Rio Grande and the Desierto de Sonora while chasing the American dream. He did not notice its absence until he opened his mouth, and what came out was more white noise than melody. The tongue, now shrunken and dried, sits in the sand like a raisin. The day he gave his naturalizing oath, he was told to offer his heart as sacrifice. The temple, the country that replaced his tongue. He now speaks with the recycled organ, stressing syllables foreign to him, foreign like him. I tell him, "Pa, you lost your tongue, but there is nothing in this world that can be replaced, only imitated. Habla el español que tú sabes, conduct melodies in your own chest, revive the heart, the drum of life. It is still yours. Me, I am different. My supple tongue speaks for two. Los dioses Azteca blessed me with a forked tongue. Like a double-headed serpent, it rises, each defending her territory, her language, her voice." Thank you, Jessa, for the kind introduction and for being an unwavering ally and a champion of all that is good in our community. First and foremost, I want to thank each and every one of you for braving the weather to be here, and the organizers of this march who offered me this incredible opportunity to not only share my story with all of you, but for allowing me to share the stage with such inspiring individuals. And I want to thank mis hermanos y hermanas, mamá y papá, for allowing me a shot at my American dream. Second, I want to acknowledge that I am very fortunate to be able to speak from a place of privilege many cannot say the same. So right now, I want to recognize the voices and bodies who cannot be here today, nor at any march across the nation, due to fear, erasure, visibility, lack of access, or for any other reason. I am thinking of you today. I am humbled and honored to be here, sharing this space with all of you. And I want to thank you for your support on many levels, because if it wasn't for people like you, I would not be here standing in South Dakota as a proud, queer, immigrant woman today. In fact, as Jessa mentioned, just last year I was able to celebrate my love for my wife in a truly mesmerizing moment, surrounded by so much love and light, something that would not have been possible just 6 years ago. And it wasn't until 2016 that I truly found my voice, because although a sudden fear swept the nation, I knew I was never alone. The warm, inviting sense of community that I found here gave me the courage to begin my journey toward pursuing and advocating for justice. Through my art and poetry, I have been able to successfully open up space for the difficult but necessary conversations about identity, gender, race, sexuality, and belonging. And you have been there right with me. My plans are to continue to tackle the tough issues. Through education, I will begin my Master of Education program this year. My hopes are that students are heard, feel safe, and are empowered to continue this and many more movements once we are no longer here. In fact, as I thought about today's theme of women's rising and the recognition of women's power and agency in the voting process, I thought my contribution would come in the form of education and solidarity as well. Today we are gathered to send a loud and powerful message. We are here. Look around you. This is the legacy that we will leave behind for generations to come. This resilience, this pride, this empowerment, this love. We are all here because we believe and stand for something. That something might look a little different for each of us, and we might not always agree on certain things, but nonetheless, the vision is the same. Women's rights are to be celebrated, and this fight must go on. Next, I must extend a trigger warning. My speech mentions sexual assault, suicide, and the murdering of Indigenous, trans, Black, and immigrant peoples. This year is extremely important. 2020 is a year we have all been waiting for with a hurried anticipation for a variety of reasons. As we approach the 100th anniversary of the 19th Amendment granting women the right to vote, I want to reflect on a few things. First, the thank yous and praise we extend to the suffragists who worked to set the foundation of movements toward women's rights cannot be done without also holding in balance of reality and truth that many held beliefs of white supremacy that set the foundation of inequality we're working to rectify today. We wouldn't be here if it wasn't for their work and belief in something better. And that something better today means that we remember that this anniversary. Please allow me to elaborate. As we welcome the celebration, we must also remember that this excitement for this triumph cannot be shared by all women, as Black, Indigenous, and women of color continue to fight for that same right for 40 additional years. In fact, although on the forefront it might seem that the fight has ended, this is only the beginning. Today, Native Americans still face significant difficulties accessing the polls. Naturalized citizens face voter intimidation, and southern states have enacted restrictions to systemically suppress African American votes, and the list continues. And in order for us to make things right, we must first challenge current structures of power that marginalize and oppress our friends and families. Undeniably, it is hard, demanding, exhausting, seemingly endless work, but nonetheless, look at how far we have come together. I must accentuate the importance of rallying as that is where our power lies. In joining forces, in educating our neighbors, in showing up for both advocacy and action. As we are not arriving at a destination during this march, we are not awaiting a revolution. We are the revolution. And each day we are granted the opportunity to act in favor of much needed change. We no longer have the luxury to sit and wait for the work to be done by others. We are running out of time. Our world is burning, melting, drowning, and being poisoned by those who are supposed to protect us. Each day, we say goodbye to countless species of animals. Important ecosystems are wiped away. All around the world, indigenous populations continue to be removed from their homes by the greedy manifest destiny mindset of expansion that threatens all that remains beautiful. Right here in America, Flint, Michigan is still thirsty for clean water. All across the board, we experience record-shattering heat. Many regions are increasingly at risk of flooding, and Puerto Rico continues to be affected heavily by earthquakes. And right here in South Dakota, our drinking water, wildlife, food supply, sacred lands, and culturally significant sites of indigenous populations are at risk due to the inconsiderate implementing of disastrous pipelines. And the list goes on. But the GOP refuses to believe in this depressed reality. And its betrayal and denial are costing us more than land and resources, while endangering our democracy as a whole. Therefore, we must grow in our power, because while those in office continue to use their constituents as pawns in their games, their negligence is mostly harming our country's most vulnerable. This stealthy, dangerous tactic of passing over our country's epidemics, denying climate change, mocking and silencing sexual abuse survivors, criminalizing and dehumanizing immigrants and refugees, and actively working to strip LGBTQIA plus peoples of their basic human rights must be unveiled. In fact, let's take a closer look at a few examples of issues that are direct results of this negligence. As of 2016, the number of missing Native American women and girls climbed to 5,712, and only 116 of those cases were logged into the Department of Justice's federal missing persons database. But that is not all. Murder is the third leading cause of death among American Indian and Alaska Native women as compared to chronic lower respiratory diseases for non-women of color in America. And according to the CDC, Black mothers in the U.S. die at 3 to 4 times the rate of white mothers, one of the widest of all racial disparities in women's health. One, preventable with fair access to health care and addressing the underlying root cause of racism. The ACLU furthers that nearly 200 allegations of abuse from detainees in detention facilities across the nation have been fielded by government officials since 2007 alone. And since January 2010, at least 101 people have died as a result of an encounter with U.S. border agents. And the Human Rights Campaign in 2018 states that advocates tracked at least 26 deaths of transgender or gender nonconforming people in the U.S. due to fatal violence, and the rates at which this violence occurs continues to rise. In addition, in the U.S., 1 in 3 women and 1 in 6 men experience some form of sexual violence in their lifetime, not to mention the countless stories yet to be told. Alarmingly, suicide is the third leading cause of death among adolescents, and gay teens are 4 times more likely than straight teens to attempt suicide. Lastly, our bodies continue to be policed by the state and coerced into thinking what it thinks it is best for us. So much that this cycle perpetually entrenches itself into each new generation. But despite what is happening, I believe in this rising. I believe in what is coming, because I have no doubt that we will resist and rise in power together. This is no longer a movement controlled by politics, although I do acknowledge the role and importance that policies and government play in making a difference. I would argue that this movement is uplifted and brought forth by humanity. In the same vein, it is important to note that when we say we are feminists and allies and advocates, we must be intersectional feminists, allies, and advocates. This is the only way. And not only be those things when it is convenient and safe and easy, because I mentioned before, many lives are at risk. and continue to be threatened in the status quo. Because to quote the wonderful Angela Davis, in a society that is racist, it is not enough to be non-racist. We must be anti-racist. And the same would apply to homophobia, transphobia, xenophobia, Islamophobia, and bigotry. So this is my request for today. Lastly, I must conclude that I might not always have all the answers, and I might not always be right or qualified. I make mistakes, and at times I stand corrected. But I will not let my fears of being wrong prevent me from standing up for what I believe to be good. And here is what I believe in. I believe in this America. I believe in my new home right here with you. I believe in the greatness and fire that so many of us possess. And I am so proud of you for standing up for refugees this past week and for continuing to protect trans children's lives from harmful rhetoric and legislation that is in front of us. I believe that we are big and even bigger in numbers, and that as women, we must trust ourselves and our sisterhoods and march on with dignity, self-respect, love, and courage today and always. As you see, I believe in many things that give me hope despite the current health of this country. But one thing I do not believe in is in making America great, because this is speaking on a tomorrow. And I believe that we are what make America great today. So I will leave you with one last poem. A dream in which my body becomes mine. This body drifts to sleep and levitates above post lines and vacant lots, past snarling dogs and alleyways, has breakfast with the girls, walks herself home from the bar, uncatcalled, unlured, unarmed. She pauses on the park bench, becomes one with darkness, and this time she is not afraid. The TVs turn on in the windows, and she does not hear her name. The men in suits have other things to discuss, like families, sports seasons, and maybe even how to please their wives. Or once, the crowds do not bother her. In the waiting room, she is not asked why she is there. She is not chased with pitchforks and picket signs. She is not threatened by your God. This body is not asked to repent for all her sins. She is not made an example of. She does not become a premature crucifixion. It is dawn now. She walks past the butcher and the dealers, the other bodies on the street. She walks past brawls and car alarms, and this time she is not afraid. When she makes it home again, she reminisces freedom. Where does the sun sleep? What pit does it hide in? Does it still shine even when not seen? Aren't we still golden when invisible? I mean, aren't we still golden after so much black and blue? Aren't we still golden? Thank you so much.